Welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm your host, Dr. Roddy Raban. On this episode, you're going to want to tune in. This is everything Botox neurotoxin related. That is A to Z related to having Botox. You definitely don't want to miss this. We're going to be joined by two of my favorite patients. So make sure to tune in to learn everything there is to know about neurotoxins. Welcome to this episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm Dr. Roddy Raban. I am joined by two of my very favorite patients, Andrea and Anita, the dynamic sisters. And we're going to be talking about, we call it Botox. To be honest with you, it's neurotoxins. And I thought this was an important episode because we talk about Botox and neurotoxins in general, usually quite casually and quite superficially. And that's fine because it's sort of become ubiquitous with just spa care. But I think there's very little real facts are known by patients. And for those who have never done it, and for those that do it regularly, it's a nice educational experience to know what the hell am I doing? What are these products? What can they help me with? What can go wrong, etc. So what more appropriate than having it with these two beautiful ladies who have been patients of mine and now friends of mine for quite some time. Welcome, ladies.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
Of course. We're very grateful for you guys being on because nobody wants to hear me talk to myself. So, all right. So why don't we just start out with, because I think what's actually interesting about you guys is we have Andrea, who is the type of patient who dabbles in these things, maybe is a little bit more accustomed to doing these beautification type procedures. And then we have Anita, who is more reticent, more conservative, maybe doesn't want to do them unless she has to, kind of. And I think both of you serve as the north and south pole of this concept, because there are people who are listening who do this. What's the big deal? I get my nails done. I color my roots, I do this, that, the other. And then there are people like, I don't know, this stuff is like poison. I don't know if I want to inject it in my face. I mean, do they know if it's going to kill me? So you guys are going to add both perspectives. So let's start out with Andrea. Tell me your interactions with, I'm going to back up a notch. I'm going to hold on a second. Let me first describe what it is, the subject matter. So these products are called neurotoxins or neuromodulators. So what they mean is they modulate, alter their neuropathic elements like movement. They're neurotoxins because Botox is a product that comes out of botulinum toxin derivative, which means it's a toxin that comes from a bacteria that they isolate. So that's where the names came in. Botox is a brand. It is a brand, much like Kleenex is a brand. It's a brand of what? Tissue paper. But since it is the most common brand of tissue paper, we call everything Kleenex. And Botox is the most common brand of neuromodulator neurotoxin, hence why we call everything Botox. But there are other products, Dysport or Dysport, which I use a lot of and mostly, Xeomin, and a few others that are coming to market. So it's very important to know that when we say Botox on this episode, it's just loosely referring to it as is Kleenex to tissue paper. And what they do essentially is when they're injected in different amounts and in different locations, they modulate the nerve function or the motor function of that area. So we inject them, it stops or paralyzes the muscle, and that muscle function, whatever the heck it was, stops happening. And so neurotoxins and neuromodulators did not start out with cosmetics. They were used originally for clinical or medicinal purposes, for eyelid spasm, for anal fissures, and all kinds of medical reasons, which they're still being used, and only really became a cosmetic treatment after they had been used for medical reasons. And so what they do is wherever you inject them, that muscle that you inject, depending on how much of it you inject, will slowly weaken and paralyze, and always temporarily. And then eventually what happens is that muscle function will come back, and whatever it did will do again, just like it did before, as if nothing ever happened. And that's not me saying it, but that's just facts. Billions of injections have occurred, meaning millions and millions of people multiple times, and the side effect profile is quite small. So anyways, with that little introduction, which is necessary. Let's dive into Andrea. So you tell me a little about yourself, when you started doing this injectable, the neurotoxins, and why.
So I think it's been at least 4 years now. The reason that I originally asked you about it and got interested in it was I had gone to Hawaii on vacation one year. And when I got back, I was looking at photos, got very tan. I thought it was great. And then as I was looking at photos, I saw that I had 2 lines that were just stuck in between my nose that were white. And I was like, what are those lines? I didn't realize, but apparently when I smile or when I'm thinking, I'll put my eyes together, and I do it so frequently that all of the tanning that I had done and all the sun that I got in Hawaii literally caused tan lines on my face. So I asked Anita, I'm like, what's going on? So then I think I came in and I spoke with you, and I was like, I don't know what we can do here. I had never gotten Botox before, and I wasn't really familiar with it. And I think that was originally why I decided to go ahead and try it, was because it would reduce the lines. It would stop me from making that face and trying to like pull my eyebrows together. And I didn't really care for the lines and the tan lines in my face. And, you know, I'm in my mid 30s, I will say, and wrinkles are coming. I have, whenever I lift my eyebrows up, I'll get like the lines in my forehead. And, you know, I just wanted to maintain and not get those creases that were coming, I guess, pretty naturally for me, and they were becoming a little more prevalent. So I just wanted to stop that.
Great. And so how you presented is how most or a lot of people present, right? First and foremost, this idea, I love to debunk all the people who are naysayers. Like, oh, why don't you just leave your lines? They're just natural. Why don't you age gracefully? And that's acceptable for some people.
Totally.
But the idea is that each person decides for themselves what it is about their appearance that they want to enhance, maintain, and prevent. Some people want to color in their roots. Some people want to pluck their eyebrows. Some people want to shave their armpits. Some people want to use deodorant. Some people want to put lipstick on. Nobody is going to decide where the line in the sand is going to be. And this is yet one more tool available to us in modern times that can help enhance the aesthetics. Now, let's be very clear. Botox does not prevent wrinkles, even though that's what people say all the time in advertisements and whatever. Botox is not preventative, but delayative. What it means is that natural person, you look at my niece is whatever, now she's 16 or 17, and she smiles and talks and animates. And sure enough, like every other normal human being, she makes a bunch of wrinkles in her forehead, around her eyes, etc. And it's beautiful and cute. And so she's just so young and beautiful. When we look at my grandmother who passed, she had the same wrinkles, but they're not so young and they're not so cute and beautiful because they create really permanent etching, kind of scarring into the face. So the question is, how the hell did I get from 16 to 87? And the reality is 3,444 animations. In other words, every time you wrinkle your eyebrows or smile or whatever, you create a movement. So there's a certain number of those movements that then create permanency in those lines. My niece smiles and then she relaxes and the lines go away. My grandmother smiles and relaxes and the lines don't go away. So what Botox will do is will prevent you from making as many animations as quickly as you would. So instead of getting permanent lines, which you will get at 47, you get them at 63. And I'm making up that number. So what they're doing essentially is they're slowing down as opposed to preventing the process. So that's, you know, your classic. You'll come in, you say, listen, I looked at a photo. I was looking in the mirror and I was like, what the hell is this line between my eyebrows? And one of the most common areas where people present is the frown lines or the number 11 lines that you talked about. And you can get them as early as 22. I mean, I have patients at mine that could hold a pencil between their eyebrows. That's how deep that is at the age of 20. So wait, let me understand this. So a 20-year-old who has such deep lines between their eyebrows, and I make a number, I make it up 20, 24, 25, it doesn't matter, should basically not do something unless they're 37 because that's the age. No, that's ridiculous. You do it based on your anatomy and what you need. There are 48-year-olds that come in, they barely wrinkle their forehead at all. I'm like, wow. And there are, like I said, 20-some-odd-year-olds that have super deep wrinkles. So that's that. All right, Anita. you're the naysayer, you're the holdout, you're the holistic schmalistic. I don't do these things unless I have to, you know, unless I'm going to some major gala, I'm not going to doll up. What's the deal here? So how did you get roped into this?
Well, I saw how my sister looked after she had hers done after a couple days once it settled in. I had decided that I have a very round face, and I wanted to also kind of get a little more definition with my eyebrows, because I get my eyebrows done. And if I'm able to have a little higher of an arch, and also kind of reduce or eliminate some of the kind of finer lines that I had around my eyes, then that's something that I want to do as well. And I did have a tiny bit of dimpling in my chin, so we also used a little bit there to kind of smooth the chin out, because I didn't want to do anything necessarily drastic like a chin augmentation or anything and that sort of thing, because I try not to be too adventurous.
Well, you're lucky. You have your sister blazing the trail for you, so it's all good.
Exactly. She gets to test drive everything, and then I come in on the heels, and it's really great. So that's kind of, I guess, my look. I try to.
And I think you hit on some other topics. So some people do it for wrinkle prevention or dilation, or if that's a word. Some people do it for form formation, meaning like, you know, we'll get into the details of like brow arching and dimpling and things in the second half of the episode. I'm going to get into specifics of, okay, got it. So this is Botox. Where the hell can I do it? But there are different entry points as to why people do it. And, you know, I think that the reality is in terms of something to try aesthetically, as if for an individual to want to improve the way they look, Botox or neuromodulators are wonderful entry points. Why?
Yeah.
Number one, they are reversible, meaning, no, let me change that. They go away, meaning that you do it, oh my God, what the hell did I do? This looks terrible. Well, great. Hang tight, usually 3 to 5 months, and it wears off. Second thing, when you go back to the way you were. I don't know about that. Isn't there some permanency? Is my face going to drop off? Am I going to sag my face? Blah, 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 blah. All that is nonsense. That's all urban legend. When you inject somewhere and then you stop, you will go back to looking as good, as bad, whatever you look like before you're going to be back. That's great. Next, there's very little downtime. So you get the injections. They call it a lunchtime effect, but you get the injections. And if done correctly and you don't get a bruise, which you often shouldn't, you should be able to wipe it off and 30 minutes later, put a little bit of makeup on and go back to your activities. Obviously, you're not going to get up and go play a tennis match, but you are going to be able to go back to the office, etc. It is great in that it's not that expensive, meaning that for the amount of units one needs, it generally, comparatively to other things, it's an affordable thing to try and do and whatnot. So in all those reasons, it's really wonderful. It has a low side effect profile. It has no not side effect profile, meaning there's no such thing. Tylenol has side effects, but it's not significant. And the side effects from Botox, number one, is you might get a mild headache the first time you inject it. Usually that's transient. As a matter of fact, now it's used across the world for headaches, migraines, etc. But you might get a small headache. And then the side effect is someone did a shitty job. They injected it too much in the wrong place, and now you look funky. That's not really a side effect. That's just bad work. But that'll wear off. Otherwise, I don't really know much in the way of major side effects. And it's been injected for years in billions of people. So it really isn't what we refer to as a gateway to trying some cosmetics, trying to do these procedures. And it's really a really easy and I think affordable and wonderful way to enter into the area of cosmetics. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and then we're going to dive into the areas that can be injected. And then I'll talk about you guys because you guys have done them differently. You know, your brows are different in the way your brows react. And we'll talk about all the areas. Like people don't know that you can stick it in your chin. Why the hell you stick it in your chin? People don't know that you can do your armpits. People don't know that, so on and so forth. So we'll come back to that. So everyone should just tune into the second half. We'll be back with Plastic Surgery Uncensored with my dynamic duo sisters. Welcome back to the second half of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. This is Dr. Roddy Raban. I'm joined with the AA team, Anita and Andrea, regarding neurotoxins, neuromodulators. And we were about to talk about, okay, so it's a really great approach, blah, blah, blah. What are the areas that I can do? So, Andrea, what do we do for you? What are your areas?
So my main areas, I always like to hit the middle of my eyebrows.
Right.
So I don't have those dents. I like to get the high arches on my eyebrows. So we always do a little bit on the top of my forehead. We smile, raise my eyebrows, and then they go in. And then I have a little bit of wrinkling around my eyes when I smile. I smile all the time.
Beautiful. By the way, we're not trying to get rid of your smile, right? It's an urban legend that Botox, you're going to freeze your face and not smile. That's the craziest thing ever. You smile from ear to ear. You just don't wrinkle as much when you smile.
And that's the thing. I love my smile. I love the way that my face looks when I'm able to raise my eyebrows. I still have so much expression when I do, raise my eyebrows or do anything with my face, but I don't have the wrinkling that I was trying to stop that look for myself.
Right.
So primarily my forehead, the eyebrow arch, and then the wrinkling on the outside of my eyes.
Right. So those are the three most common areas, right? The three most common areas that people do is the glabella, which means your number 11s. That's the side-to-side effect. The forehead, meaning the wrinkles across your forehead. And then your crow's feet that come around the sides of your eyes. Those are, if I would say, the most common three areas that people will do. And so things you need to know. Number one, that Botox is a dial, not a switch, meaning that it's not on or off, frozen, not frozen. It is a dial in that 1 unit, then 10 units, then 30 units, then 60 units, then 100 units, and so on and so forth. So it is very much something that is modulating, and it is incremental. What I like to do is something called micro Botox, which means I use less units more often. So if I inject you with, let's say, 50 units, and for those who don't know anything, that's a lot, it may last 6 months. And yes, you will not be able to move anything in those areas. In exchange, I may inject you with 30 units, and I inject you and it lasts 3 to 4 months. So the question then becomes would you rather get injected twice a year, very strong, or 3 times a year, much less? From a standpoint of convenience, obviously you'd rather go in less. But from the standpoint of looking natural, there's no question that less units more often is the more desirable way to go. So let's get that out of the way. Second thing you need to know is that between the eyebrows, you really can't overdo it, because the reality is there's very seldom any desire for you to frown unless you're a character actor on TV. But your eyebrows make a huge difference because there are 2 of them and they do all kinds of funky things. So what people will notice is there's this very, very misleading concept. When I inject my forehead, my eyebrows go up. I must have 1,000 patients a month calling me for, I want my eyebrows to go up. I want to inject my forehead. It is actually the exact opposite. So listen carefully. Everywhere I inject Botox, that muscle paralyzes. That muscle paralyzes, there's no movement. So actually, if I inject your forehead aggressively, your brows will go down and you'll get a droopy brow. The reason you get a high arch brow is because of the pattern that you inject. You inject the middle of the forehead and less on the sides, and the sides of the eyebrows go up much higher than the middle, then creating the arch. So it's actually not injecting it, but not injecting it that creates the arch. And that's the art form. You have friends whose eyebrows are flat and boring looking, and you have friends whose eyebrows look super arch and crazy looking. So there's a lot of artistry, just like plucking eyebrows. And so, Andrea, your eyebrows are very bouncy, meaning you can easily look super overdone. And Anita, your eyebrows are less bouncy, and we want the arch. So that's where that comes in. And then the crow's feet, you can never get them to go away, but you can soften them and make them a little more manageable. So those 3 areas are common. What about, I like to work my way down. What about the bunny lines on your nose? Never really thought about that. Some people, when they smile, they really wrinkle their nose. And you can see that in their 60s of a 60-year-old gentleman or a 60-year-old woman. Because on a 60-year-old person, whatever they've been doing for 60 years will show up. You'll see all kinds of lines, like the one across the base of the nose. That's called the procerus. Not everybody has it, but you can. So bunny lines are things that you can inject. Okay. What about my lips? Oh, well, I thought you fill your lips. You do fill your lips, but some people have what's called smoker's lines. Those are the vertical lines. And it's not a very effective method, but you can put the tiniest amount of Botox in the lips very carefully, because if you overdo it, you get the inability to whistle and talk and whatever. So it's an advanced level thing. You can inject the chin. So Anita, talk to me about the chin and when we pointed that out to you. Did you walk in here and go, I got wrinkles in my chin. Can you inject me? Or did I mention that?
I think I had asked, what else could I do that's not super invasive to kind of like make me look a little prettier than when I'm wearing makeup? And I was like, I don't know, like, what about like my chin? And then, because we had already done like near my eyes and up here, and you had suggested, that's when you suggested using that to kind of soften the dimpling, which I'd never even heard of before. So of course I was like, all right, well, let's give it a shot. It's temporary, and obviously I don't have to go under for it. And so we did, and I really liked it.
Yeah, so the chin's an interesting thing because most people don't see their own chin. You actually have what's called dimpling of your chin often when you're talking. And so you're not really looking in the mirror and talking to yourself. When you look in the mirror, you don't tend to make the animation like you do with your chin. And it's something that other people see, not you. And it takes a very little amount. And when you talk, it just softens the chin. And some people, their anatomy makes them look cobblestoned. And it really works beautifully. And I really like that. And I think it's very subtle. Nostril flaring. People sometimes flare their nostrils when they talk. And actually my niece does that. And so we can inject the nostrils, the alar muscles, and it softens it. That's an interesting one. Masseters for grinding, massively helpful for that get Botox. So what does that mean? A lot of people grind. Today, with all of the pressures of life, a lot of people grind. So they use night guards, and they have ear pain, and they have headaches. All of this is because at night you're sleeping and you're just crunching away on your teeth. And it creates this bulging effect in the corner of your jaw. So it's functional and cosmetic. From a cosmetic standpoint, sometimes women and men, doesn't matter, have really huge masseters or jaw angles. So in some instances it looks good, but in some instances it looks really wide. So from a cosmetic standpoint, it softens and rounds your face. It's done a lot in Korea, for example, where people have really wide jaws. From a functional standpoint, it softens the muscles and prevents you from grinding. And for a lot of people, it gives them so much help with TMJ, so much help with headaches, tension headaches. So that's a really powerful one. Another huge use of Botox, underarms. Oh my God, it saved my life. Did you guys know about the underarms?
No, I didn't know. I think I read an article on it, but I had no idea that it...
Oh my God, talk about life changer. So what the hell would you inject? Who wants youthful looking underpits? No, it's for sweating. It's for sweating. And so you can inject under your arms. And what it does is it stops you from sweating for somewhere up to 6 to 9 months. And for individuals who sweat profusely, and it can be a huge social concern, every time you wear a dress, every time you have a speech, every time you're in public, every time you're at a business meeting. And we're not talking about like, oh, it's hot outside. I'm talking about anxiety driven or hormonal driven. So of course, a natural thing is, isn't sweating good for you? Aren't you say all that toxins there? This is two different kinds of sweating. We have heat regulation sweating, which is it's 100 degrees outside and I'm playing basketball. That never changes. And then we have hormonal teleologic sweating that animals do to create kind of like a scent. We've outgrown that aspect of caveman aspect with the hormones. So I can just tell you it's life-changing for me. Okay, life-changing. So what are they? So, and then of course, those are some of the more common one more, neck bands. Oh my God. So you get an age of I don't know, 45 and greater, you start developing neck bands. And at the beginning, it's just muscular. It's not skin. You have these little muscle bands that run across your neck. And Botoxing your bands can make them go away. And I do this for a lot of TV personalities. They not want a facelift. They don't want a neck lift. They don't want any of that crap. They're too young for that. But when they see themselves on camera, they have these two bands that bounce when you talk. And you can soften those bands by paralyzing them. I do it for my mom, and she loves it. And you can do it as old as you get, but it's very helpful when you're starting young. And so that's really, really good and very, very helpful. So just last few couple points, and I think are important. One of them is the idea of what can go wrong. Well, with Botox, really, it's mostly associated with wrong injections and looking funky. So brows can droop, and then eyelids can droop. It's called eyelid ptosis. Have you guys heard of that one?
I have heard of it, but I haven't.
Major faux pas. You inject the eyebrows, and then the Botox leaks down to the eyelid, and your eyelid droops for 3-4 months. You can imagine that's a pretty look. You're gonna be pissed. And unlike injectables, you can't reverse it. You got to hang tight. So you don't want to just go to any Joe Schmo, even though it's a Groupon Botox, $2 a unit, bring a friend and family. This is not a buffet. Everyone who knows me knows that I'm very partial towards injectors. Where is this normally getting done? Today, Botox is getting done in the mall by some person. Okay, your call, whatever you want. You guys are both educated people, well-to-do. Why on earth are you guys driving to my office, paying a shit ton for parking? It's unnecessary. It's like brutal. By the way, I don't make any money on the parking. Sitting in my lobby for like an hour, not anymore with COVID, but at least an hour, probably paying, I don't know, top dollar per unit. Why on earth would you just go to the mall, go to that nurse spa lady? There's 1,000 places you can inject it. What are the thought processes of why one would want to go to a board certified plastic surgeon versus going just wherever?
Here is where I am going to speak my piece on this. This is my face, and it's the first thing people see anywhere you go. And I would not want to pay, personally, I can't speak for others, but I would not want to get a bargain or a discount when it has to do with my appearance and needles are being injected into my face. I have zero trust in discount surgeries or, getting a deal or Groupon or anything. I would rather spend the extra money, wait a little longer, drive a little further, whatever it is I have to do to know that I'm going to somebody who is experienced, who knows what they're doing, who has the training, and is able to tell you, yes, I will be able to take care of whatever it is that you're coming here for, or no, I don't think that you need to go that far, that would be way too much, I don't want to have that effect on you. So going to somebody experienced and knows what they're doing is why I spend a little more and drive a little further and take the extra time.
No, and I think that's really important. I think that the fact of the matter is, it's great that Botox and these gateway things are now accessible to everybody. I love the fact that they're affordable. I love the fact that you can just be what we call quote unquote an average person, which I don't know what that means. Everybody's extraordinary, but the idea being that you're not a celebrity and you can do it. I don't like the fact that the gateway has opened to all kinds of random injectors. I don't like the fact that there's no real regulatory body. I don't like the fact that you can go from getting it injected by a pediatrician, an ER doctor, a nurse injector, a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, and everyone does these things. Yes, there is, I don't want to say no danger, but limited danger. Worst comes to worst, you look terrible. But this is not the only thing these people are injecting, right? Fillers and doing treatments and microneedling and so on and so forth. So the question, the discussion isn't so much nurses shouldn't be doing it. The discussion is just make sure that you are being attentive to who it is that's injecting you, because it's seldom just minor things you do. You almost always end up doing more where you are. And just be smart about it. Just be smart. Do a little homework. Don't use Instagram as your educational tool. It's a marketing platform. You don't look at an advertisement as a source of information. You do some homework. And you were a little skeptical. You seem like a little also kind of one of those weary type people. What is it that what was your thoughts on where to go and how to get injected? Your friends, I'm sure, are getting it done, both of you in other different places. There's very few people who doesn't know anyone getting injected. There's probably thousands of people getting injected. What was your thoughts on the process? I mean, you came obviously because your sister came, but I'm sure you did a little of your own homework.
Yeah, I think, for me, I have a lot of friends who are successful, successful women, and they go to see other people, physicians or whomever it is. I was interested in it. Obviously, I saw the results that my sister had, and then I did my research. I always like to make sure that, whatever I'm doing, I would be able to get the best bang for my buck, the best quality, and, especially with something, to Andrea's point, the face is the first thing people see. And you want to make sure that you're making a really good impression. And you really don't want to go to just some, random person and you have no idea what their experiences or educational background and things like that. That sort of thing's really important to me, to make sure that, I'm going to be in really good hands. And that goes for any kind of medical professional that I see. That I think that's really important to me.
No, and I think you guys hit it on the head. And and again, it's not to reiterate that you have to go to a physician per se. Obviously, I have my biases, and that goes without saying. But the bottom line is just be smart. And the thing is, it's not that the Botox will kill you. It's just that you'll end up doing other things eventually. And then when you do those other things, you'll sometimes maybe regret it because you didn't do your homework initially. And that's really where that comes in. Nevertheless, I think this is a very useful conversation about neuromodulators, neurotoxins, things of that nature. You guys have been super helpful and definitely made this conversation much more dynamic and fun rather than me speaking to myself. And I really appreciate it. Very few people, it's funny, you're at a party, you're like, hey, do you do anything? No. So very few people, even though everyone knows that everyone's doing stuff, even want to have this conversation, because as if it says something negative about you. You know how I am. I'm always about owning everything. So I really appreciate you both coming on, helping me tackle this topic, and hopefully somebody learned something from this. So awesome, guys. And I hope to see you guys soon.
Yes,
you
see
will.
You soon.
Thanks so much for having us.
All right. Well, that wraps up another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Make sure to tune in next week, as I'm sure whatever we're talking about is going to be interesting.